actually means a lot. And you know, what has been happening is very good in the sense that you have seen that we started at 200, almost 220.
Yes.
Right now, that petrol, the diesel, the kerosene are below 200 mark.
Yes.
Which is actually a very good indicator. And I believe with what is happening, the economy is actually also going to start picking up in a good way. And I know actually it is actually bound even to come down even more.
Yeah, it's bound to come down more.
Yes, because you see what is happening, there is some few things which are happening in the economy.
Yeah.
One of the things that you have seen is actually the Kenya shilling. It is actually standing tall and strong against the foreign currencies,
yes,
which is a very good thing. What has happened is that, as we were saying earlier, the perception, even for the people out of this country, they thought that Kenya, because we were almost at lead, will not be able actually to pay the Eurobond, which is actually due in June. But what is happening is that already that is settled, which is also a very good news. And I think that's why we are saying when something like this happens, actually let's also say something good is happening.
True.
Because I know we have been in a point whereby everybody was actually crying. But a 7.21 bob drop.
That's a huge margin.
That is actually now huge.
I'm trying to imagine for people like you who are in the PSV sector, and for your vehicles to operate, you need each vehicle probably does more than almost 80 liters?
Yes, 80 to 100 liters.
80 to 100 liters.
Yes.
Now you imagine for every liter, you're saving 7 shillings.
It's a lot.
It's a huge amount
it's
of
a
money.
huge, when you have at least a huge fleet.
Yes.
Do you know actually you are saying the announcement for yesterday, you are saving in tunes of 5 to 10,000 every other day. Which is actually something, yes. So it is something that we are very happy about, and we are keeping on saying, let's go this direction. It is actually improving the economy, and as it goes that way, I believe that even contracts will be able to do them, because it was difficult. Many people actually lost contracts because of operational costs, but because of what is happening, we are finding that even the contracts which were not giving us money, slowly we are starting to get into a point where we are able to break even, and after break even, what else? It is the profit. It gets into our pockets.
Manufacturing,
yes.
You have a lot of tentacles in this sector.
Yeah, and first of all, I'm very, I want to congratulate the president for, and the government, and particularly the officers that are in charge of such particular areas. I've always said that for a strong economy, you need a very strong manufacturing sector. And energy is a critical element of that manufacturing sector. And when you have a deviation of not even 7 shillings, just a shilling or two from an industrial scale, for example, an enterprise that is consuming 1 million liters probably monthly as their consumption, a deviation even a shilling is quite a lot. So to deviate by 7 shillings is quite something. That's 7 million shillings for a company that consumes that amount of fuel. And so to the average Kenyan as well, when you look at the impact that the cost of fuel has on their lives, right from the home and lighting and transport, to an average Kenyan who is just minding his own business, it also brings some bit of relief from in the pockets in terms of what it costs, because when you look at for example, your power bill, that element of cost of electricity and the forex exchange, it tells you that the two changes that we've had in terms of the strength of the shilling against the dollar and the cost of fuel have an enormous impact on their lives, and I think I'm very proud of the government for that.
Now, is this an indicator? I mean, when Ruto took over government, and you know, the economy, I mean, everybody was screaming. You could almost never envision a time while we'll be talking of, you know, the cost of fuel going down like this. I mean, the cost of living, because if the cost of fuel goes down like this, it simply means that ideally the cost of living should go down.
It does, because I've told you, fuel is a critical element of manufacturing and production and transport as well. So obviously when you talk about cost of living, is not just a is not a tree, is not a name of a tree. It's a reference to the high prices of each element of our lives.
Yes.
That is from housing, food, and transport. And when you look at the impact that the price of cost of energy is in terms of all those issues, it touches on almost all of them. So indeed, it's true that when you have a downward deviation in terms of the price of cost of a fuel, then it pretty much affects all the other elements.
Is this an indicator of a policy change that is having an impact, or just an environmental something that is beyond their hands? What is
it
what?
Can
what
be
is
both.
playing?
It can be both. You know, sometimes in politics.
Because if it's beyond them, it's just something happening out there.
Fred, I think no, it can be. Fred, it can be so many things.
Yes.
Both of us are old enough to remember in the 90s when you had a case with Kenya Power, where a bunch of civil servants went and drained some dams in some of the dams on the other side, so that we can have low water levels.
Yes.
And of course, hydroelectric power, which is what we were depending on at that particular time.
Yes.
The volumes of power produced had to go down so that we can import, because they're getting their cut from somewhere in South Africa, in one of those foreign countries.
Yes.
And indeed, they were paid those monies which was stashed abroad, and eventually they were caught up. You know, that's why we still have cases of, public cases which are in courts. You know, Chris Okemo and
the extradition cases.
The Gishuru guy, former MD Kenya Power, is because of such cases. So sometimes some of these prices is because they've been induced by corrupt people. It's not that it's the market forces that are driving us. It probably it's not even the market forces that are driving us to 207. It was a bunch of people who are trying to recover, their political money. It's just a one way of looking at it. But also it's possible that maybe the status of our economy is improving and we're producing more food locally. So government doesn't have to produce, doesn't have to spend more in terms of trying to importing food. The cost of forex, the dollars, the foreign currencies, so that you can trade internationally, is also a driver to that. The president did mention at one point, I think when we were at the height of our harvesting period, he said that we've produced this year at least 61 million bags or so, and that government was only going to buy about 1 million bags, which was I think it was buying for around 4,000 shillings. So the strategic food reserves, which then is the agency that buys food commodities for the government, and it's supposed to just buy for a quarter period of time. That's why they usually buy 2 to 3 million to just cushion Kenyans in case of a hunger. There's enough to feed for the next quarter until government is able to plan for either quick short-term measures of importation or any other strategic move to ensure that our production is in check. So they're only buying 1 million bags, which has a budget of about 4 billion shillings. So that could be an issue, because now I could assume the remainder is about 60 million bags. With 50 million Kenyans, we probably do not need to import maize. We don't need to import maize and some of these other food commodities. That has an impact on forex trade. So probably we are at that point where government doesn't have now to spend on such, and when that cuts down, then it rubs on all the other elements that touch on our lives.
It's a policy.
Let me say, I am happy about the answer that George has given.
Yes.
And I would say, yes, the world market in terms of the economy,
Yes.
especially in terms of the crude oil, you have seen that it has been coming down. And the other time that we say, there is actually two things in economy. There is the supply, there is the demand. When you find that there is a shortage in terms of the supply, the thing is that there is going to be very high demand and the prices will go up. So in terms of the world economies, there is actually many countries are creating surprise. And when they create surprise, especially in terms of the fuel, that's why you have been seeing the crude oil has been coming down. And when it comes down, actually automatically it actually affects our prices.
Yes.
Because it has come down, our prices is about to come down with that. And that's where the other time people were asking, how comes that the crude oil is actually
Going down, but we are
Kenya,
going up.
we are still going up.
Yes.
One of the things that was making the Kenya price to go up was actually lack of confidence, and that's what we said in terms of you see, like
Lack of investor confidence.
investors confident, and that's why you could see several people were actually shifting from Kenya to other markets. But right now what has happened, and that's why we are saying the government also has done a lot of lobbying in terms of creating that confidence, and that's why we say let's give it to the government right now. They have actually been working, and that's what I think the president have been saying, that we are, give us time, we are actually doing something. And now you can start seeing that they are doing something in the sense that they are able actually to convince the world that Kenya is attractive destination for investment. You know, yesterday alone, do you know actually how many billions in terms of dollars the outside, not of Kenyan people, the people outside, they want actually to bring those billions to Kenya. When a country becomes attractive, and who makes it attractive? It is actually the top. It is actually the business people. It is actually the economics, the economist. Then when you talk good about your country, you know, there before what was happening, we were talking about Maandamano. Even when big people are coming, we are still on Maandamano. But you see right now, you see the truth, which you can see between the opposition and the government right now. So let's not give only to the government. Actually, in terms of our political environment, it has helped to actually, in a way, to stabilize the country in one way or another. So it is a good trajectory, and we are moving towards a good direction. And we are saying, when you find that confidence, you will realize even what has happened. Do you know, actually, let me tell you, why even the US dollar is actually getting to where it is right now? Very many people, and you had the deputy president telling the people, if you have some dollars, sell them. Because you will not be able to sell them after some time. People thought it was a joke. But when they have seen that a float of the Europe, like the boats, and people take it like this, they realized here we are actually going to sit on our dollars and we are going to lose. So even the Kenyans who had dollars, they have actually released them. And this is actually continuous process. So what you are actually supposed to see, and this is my projection, that the dollar is actually going after some time, several months. It's going to sit at around 120 to 125.
Wow.
It is something that is going to be a wow for this country. Let me tell you, as George has said, there is what we call in economy, what we call the multiplier effect. This multiplier effect is one product alone. It can have a very great effect even into the economy of the country. And Kenya, I would tell everybody, Kenya is headed to a place where we are going to sit pretty. Why is it that I'm saying that? Let me give you a very good example. Everybody is talking about the fuel coming down. But do you know the multiplier effect of that fuel? I will give you one sector only, because it is a sector that I am in. When we talk about multiplier effect, especially in transport, what you mean is, this multiplier effect is going to touch on me in a positive way. It is going to touch on the commuters in a positive way. It is going to touch institutions in a positive way. So look at all the people that actually you deal with. They will be touched because of one thing. The cost of operations, especially on the transport, comes down. Number one, what do you use? You use fuel. You use petrol or diesel. You use oils. You use tires. You use brake pads. These things are being produced in terms of the energy, that production. Most of them, they use diesel in terms of producing this. So you will find that it is actually the whole of that web. The price is actually reduction is touching on so many elements.
And more people now, like I can imagine your industry, you now have more money that you can now spend on other things.
Correct.
And as you disposable income, you can now spend more on other things, and that again means there's an industry that is probably not even connected to transport that is going to benefit again as a result of the same.
True. Actually, that is where we are saying, because you see, even in terms of, leave alone even the PSV or the corporate, where you are transporting goods, And I was doing a calculation for someone yesterday, and I told them, you see these big trailers, their tank is 500 liters.
500 liters?
Yes, 500 liters. So they go to the petrol station and they fill that tank.
Yes.
Do you know actually it is 500 times 7. You know how much money is that? That person is saying, on that one fueling, I have saved this amount.
Yes.
So you can find that where they were charging a little bit more on transporting the goods, they can be able to reduce, because at least there is actually an impact. And you see these small, you know, discounts.
Yes.
Yesterday I went somewhere. In fact, let me give you a very good example. I went to Mombasa Road.
Yes.
One of my vehicle, it needed to be changed, the speed governor. The speed governor was 10,000. I told my manager, tell them that is too much.
Yeah.
But I will pay because I don't want the vehicle to sit there for a long time.
Yeah.
And I paid that amount. Do you know, in the evening when I was going home, what did I see? I see on my phone 1,500. I saw it from someone I did not know, because it was just sent. Then I said, well, let me not talk because I am driving. Let me even not ask this person, who are you? But when I was actually arriving home, I opened my phone like this. The first message I see this is Judith. You are of Pinnacle. That is the way I had gone for the speed governor. You have been given a discount of 1,500. Now imagine I have like around 10 vehicles. How much discount are we talking about? It is 15,000 Kenya shillings. This is actually how the economy is built. These small things people may not see, but the impact is huge. And that's why we are saying we are on the right direction.
What about Gaira? You talked about, you know, the president saying that, you know, we have produced in terms of food. I mean, we've done well.
Yes.
Can this be connected to the policy of giving fertilizer, cheap fertilizer? That's why I'm bringing up the issue of policy. Can this be connected to cheap fertilizer, therefore lots of food?
Yeah, and I think the president's anthem, based on his 2022 plan, as he called it at that particular time, was that to develop this economy, and when you look at countries that are considered developed economies, are first to succeeded in agribusiness. You're able to produce and feed the nation, because then now you have healthy and working people. And then with that, then you move into manufacturing, which is agro-processing, so that then you industrialize, then you have jobs for your people. That is the transition of how these economies, developed countries that are considered developed, were created. That's why they used to call it, I think they used to tell us in school, agrarian revolution. That's how they used to call it. So in the president's speech during his campaign was that then that is the path that the country needs to go. And I assume it's part of what he's pursuing at this particular time. And so he went big on agriculture in terms of subsidizing production. And even though agriculture is not just about fertilizer, because Fred, is not just fertilizer, you need the seed, you need the fertilizer, and then you need labor, and then you need you need storage, and then you transport and distribution and access to markets. So there's a whole bunch of things that you have on that value chain. But then it helps when then one of the elements of that production chain is catered for, then it means your cost of production goes down. I'll give you in 1 minute just a quick illustration. For example, where I come from, my home county, we have about 400 villages. The county has about 60 wards, but then we have now 400 administrative villages. And that's about, and each of the village at least has a minimum of 1,000 acres of land can be
1,000 acres.
Yeah, 1,000
That's
acres.
huge.
So we're talking of potentially 400,000 acres of arable land in Kakamega County. Now, for you to produce the advised standard quality of input that you need to put in an acre so that you can have maximum output, they say you need at least 2 bags of DAP fertilizer, and then you need a bag of urea for top dressing. So those are three bags per acre. So for you to fully cover 400,000 acres, it means the county of Kakamega needs 1.2 million bags of maize. So when you put it against 3,000 shillings, which is an average bag, then we have a bill of about 3.6 billion that just goes into buying fertilizer alone. alone. So you've not even put in the issue of the seedlings. They tell us that you know, the 1 bag of maize, the seedling that you for planting gives at least 4 bags when you plant it, the expected output from it. So for you to achieve the targeted 40 bags an acre, which is what you call a high yield, it means then at least in an acre you need to put at least 10 of them, so that at least you're able to produce 40 bags. Again, when you take 10 kilos of that planting seed by 400,000 acres, it means again you also need 1.2 million of seedlings, which roughly goes to around 300 shillings. So it's probably 200-300 million as well. So you need 4 billion. The CEC of agriculture in Kakamega County is supposed to have an annual bill of 4 billion shillings, so that at least the 400,000 acres of land in Kakamega can be able to put into production, and then we're able to produce 16 million bags. We would feed the whole of Northeastern with that, just Kakamega County alone. So, and you can imagine, I don't even want to mention the market value of that. That's why I'm disappointed by the kind of leadership that is in Kakamega, because 16 million bags, David, 16 million bags, if a kilo of fly here is going to between 140 to 200 shillings on the higher side, it means the retail price at the supermarket is 100 shillings a kilo, isn't it? So 16 million bags, it means maize alone can give us 160 billion shillings.
Kakamega County.
Maize alone, 16 million bags. This is David is a finance guy. He's a finance. If you're producing 16 million bags and you're milling and putting it into the 100 Naivas stores, it means you're going to retail it at 100 bob.
Yes.
How much is that, Pastor? 160 billion
Correct,
shillings.
yes.
10 times what we get from the county government, from the national government as our equitable share. And you know, it's very much within ourselves. Kakamega County is the home to the what you call the tropical rainforest, one of the largest in Africa. And it is actually in my own constituency, which is Malava, which is where we have the Kakamega forest. If you one day, I invite you to come to my home area there, it's very green and peaceful, and birds and monkeys. You know, you would feel like you're in Mount Kenya, you know, that area of Mount Kenya Reserve, Safari Club, that area. You know, we have that vibe. But then we have a governor and the kind of leadership that is there that is not very industrious. They are focusing more on social programs. Tumepeana mbolea, tumepeana bursary, tumepeana mbolea, tumepeana, you know, it's the anthem they sing. So they can't tell you what is producing and what is precious. So the president is right that the output is very high. Clearly, it's part of the effort they have done. In our county, they registered 145,000 farmers in Kakamega.
145,000
for the subsidy program that you're mentioning, the fertilizer. And then they had an electronic format that helped you to, just the way now if you want to visit Huduma Center, you have to go to the Huduma platform, apply, they give you a text, and when you go there, they kind of ask you, let us see your reference code. You need controls idlers from just showing up. So even the new format that they used in terms of distribution of fertilizer sort of has reduced the number of people that used to commercial, you know, we had commercial characters that used to go buy in bulk, and then resell in the village at a much higher price. So now your ID can only buy one time, and you only get one allocation, and there's a maximum of what you can get as a person. So Ngaira or Fred Njeri cannot turn up 10 times to collect 30 bags, and it is worked to some extent, and that could have contributed to part of it. Even though fertilizer is just 7% of the total cost of production, so there's another 93 to be catered for.
So we are looking much prettier now.
Yes.
Yeah. And maybe I add something before you ask the other question of what you're saying. Number two thing I can say that God has also favored us in terms of the rains. Because even right now, even this year, you can see what is happening.
It's still raining.
Yeah, it is still raining, which is actually a good thing. Then the other, because you talked about the policy, and Gaira has talked about it, there is something which the government is doing, which is very good. This is the post-harvest losses. They are very clear about this, because some of the things that has been happening, and we used to ask a long time ago, you find like you go to Laikipia, there is actually cabbages, there is this wastage all the way. There is people have harvested so much, but there is so many losses after harvesting, even in terms of drying and all these things. But you can see the policy that the government is putting in place, such that they are going to reduce in terms of these losses. I can tell you all this is a direction which is helping this country. So if we can continue increase those small incremental positive
taking care of, policy-wise of the inputs,
correct,
and then and the post.
Yes, yes.
After harvesting because
Correct.
of the losses.
Yes, yes. This is actually going to make Kenya to look good. So today I am happy because we are talking about great things which are happening.
Some positivity.
Yes, it feels good when you are in a country where there is actually
some great things.
Yes, it's correct.
Let's still on great things, and I say great because this is so it comes very close to my skin. The war on illicit brews.
Yes.
Because if you go to central Kenya, I don't know about Ngaira's area. I'm told in Ngaira's area they brew, but whatever is brewed is not the kind of brew that destroys
actually,
people.
the Kenya National Bureau of Statistics
Yes.
have confirmed that by volume, the largest amount of alcohol is consumed in Western. It is they are the largest consumers of alcohol, Pastor David. But they drink legitimate, well-done alcohol, which is basically porridge. You know, busa is fermented porridge.
Yes.
It's just flour that has been fermented.
Yes.
So you can take dozens and dozens and wake up and go to work. But you know what we're dealing with here in Kinyorero, it's called Kinyorero, so in Lokabete here. It's something else.
Now ask me because I come from that region, and that's why you can see the deputy president is actually saying that if it means only one time, for me,
I'd rather go down to the ship.
You know, let me tell you, people are just thinking it is a joke. Young boys in our villages, they have become, in quotes, useless. In the sense that they cannot actually even do anything until they take that, you know, that illicit brew. They are shaking like this. Another day, women, they actually decided to go on the roads with twigs. And you know what they were talking about? We need our men back in the home, in our homes. Why? It is because men are actually underperforming, even at home. At home, at work, there is nothing they can produce. And I have looked at it. I go to the village sometimes. I look, there is actually some few guys I know. We were with them the same class. I'm telling you. Do you know they don't have even teeth? Literally. Those guys, you look at them, and I went there with my daughter one day, and I told her, I was in school. I told her I will introduce you to my schoolmate. and the guy actually, when I go home, he is religiously, he must come because he is looking for 10 bob or even for 50 bob. He came. We gave him food, and I told my daughter, this was actually my schoolmate. When the daughter looked, my daughter looked at him.
He looked like a grandpa.
What are you talking about? This guy must be 80. But I am telling you, he is even most likely even he is a bit younger than me. But you look at that man, he cannot do anything. It is actually a state where you are finding the deputy president is saying, and he is saying, this is actually illicit brew. And I am actually, do you know my uncle? He died because of this poor behavior. They were actually, they put a competition.
A competition?
Yes, a competition. There were two guys who is going to be able to complete the bottle faster than the other one. And they started the whole thing. My friend, by the time he was through, he was number one in terms of consuming the thing. But by the time he was finishing, he started holding his stomach like that. Within few minutes, he was gone. This is actually the impact that is there. And you know, some of these things, people are looking at them and they are saying, no, you are talking about creating jobs. How do you create jobs? You are going to kill people and destroying the future career of the people. So what we are saying, and I like what George has said, watu wa kule hiyo sasa hiyo kama huko wanasema it's not killing, it is actually something like uji. I am not saying that they go and eat it, I drink it, no, but I am saying some of the communities, what they are producing is actually poison.
You know, there was a time I'd taken my car to Grogan hapa hivi chini, the mechanic huko. And I saw a guy who was now being carried by the mechanics, being taken to Kenyatta National Hospital. And I asked, what's happening here?
Yeah.
And they told me, this gentleman, there's a bottle of beer, of whiskey, one of those concoctions that has a Maasai with the, you know how the Maasai stand with a stick and they fold one of their legs. This guy had said he was going to drink until that Maasai stretches his leg. And so he had drunk himself to a point whereby he was literally dying. He was being taken to hospital. There's now a school of thought that claims that the brews that are being taken to this part of the country are intentionally being done thus to completely waste the population in that area.
That is one way of looking at it. But Fred, when you look at it wholesomely, this lady that is currently the MP for Githunguri, the lady that was women rep for Kiambu, I forget her name, she had a program. She had a program for rehabilitating kids in that particular area. And I think she was one, way before Deputy President Gabi Gachagua, I think she was one of those honest people that had looked at this issue wholesomely and addressed and sort of went to the bottom line of why we are even here in the first place. These kids, not just kids, these old men and these people that are drinking this poisonous alcohol, is that they do not get there by choice. There is what drives them to that. Is when then they become victims of that particular issue. And then they went back into families. They went back into the process of how kids and children are being brought up in that particular region. And you know, that's what I was talking about. First it is poverty. Then poverty leads to lack of education and opportunities in life. And then that then drives them either into crime or alcoholism. So we're saying to address this, then we need to go back into the family life. And then bring back the children into the control of the society so that then families are able to groom their kids well. And that is by first helping the families to be able to provide. So that then, Fred, their kids then, it's almost the same issue that we have with the banditry in the north.
Yes.
Because somebody was asking, even as we sing about ending these banditry issues in the Kerio Valley, what is the opportunity, the alternative opportunity you're giving these bandits? You understand? A kid was born in Kisuguta Valley. He has never stepped in any school. He's lived in the bush all his life. As a man, he understands that he's a hunter and a gatherer. So they are actually gathered and blessed to go for raids. That is what they do as an economic activity. And he grows into that for 18 years. And they were saying such a kid who's been armed since he was age 7, when he could carry a gun, wooden, the man-made, the locally made gun, assembled guns, from age 7, and has done it to 18. And is on daily basis, he's in an alarm situation where he's in a fighting mode. Not even a regular police officer who's pursuing it as a career and has been hired, and throughout his last 10 years has never fired a single bullet, cannot face such a person. You understand? And so when they looked at it, because the short solution to that was that you get these armed security men and you get in and they try to fight. But then when they say that we need to look at it wholesomely, that's where the issue of infrastructure, access to economic opportunities, kids going to school, so that these kids then do have an alternative to what is leading them into particular crime, which is the same issue that she's called Gadoni Wamshomba. This is what Wamshomba was trying to explain, that it is indeed true that you have a challenge with alcoholism, but the short-term solution is not that they didn't just wake up to go and become alcoholics. There's a reason why they went there. So they went back into families and they looked at the issues of poverty, the issue of single parenthood, the issue of fatherhood in there. Kiambu County has the highest rate of single women in the country, 44%.
44%.
That means 5 of every 10 girls in Kiambu are single. For whatever reason, by choice. Others, unfortunately, they lost their husbands, maybe they're widows. But the bottom line is 5 out of every 10, they're single. The highest in the country. You understand? And he said because then it leads to single familyhood, where you have parents, particularly women who are now staying back with kids, they're not able to truly groom, particularly boy child, the kids who are male, because of the kind of demands that the society places on a boy child. There's slightly more. So the demands are very high. So a kid doesn't get to school, doesn't get then to get a good job, or probably get into business and do something productive. So he can't provide for even himself before he even thinks about providing for a family. And so he goes back into other alternative means of surviving in the country, and unfortunately alcoholism becomes one of them. So it's a real challenge in the Mount Kenya region, which unfortunately it's never been painted, it's never been truly addressed nationally. You know, it's like a political tool. People only turn up around elections time to talk about this. Yet it's a continuous social challenge that then needs to be addressed on a daily basis. I hope and wish Deputy President.
There are places you go and there's a certain generation that is not there.
It's very true. I remember Matiang'i and the late CS Mangoa.
Yes.
Whenever they do those around exam time and they're doing assessment. But this particular one, he was trying to look at the Form 1 intake. They had just graduated kids that had done class 8, now they're graduating into Form 1. So he was sort of trying to do a supervision to see what the turnout is in the Form 1 classes. And he was somewhere nearly there and he said, look at this class. This is the only region where you find empty classes. In other regions you go, like in the Kakamega, we have no spaces. Some kids are learning from outside the window because, you know, Kakamega being the second largest county by population. It's right after Nairobi, because it's Nairobi, Kakamega, then Kiambu. It means the population of our people is very, very high. So, and our classes are still very few. So you get classes at almost 80, 100 students, one teacher, which was not what he was seeing in Nyeri, I think at that time when he was supervising the Form 1 intake. It was that time. And he went into alluding into what you're saying, that we have a challenge here because then it means we don't really have the number of kids being born and the ratio that you're talking about in that particular region. That generation is not there.
Well, actually, Fred, it is a serious issue. And I can tell you, you remember there is a time watu walikunywa that pombe hata hapa Machakos.
Yes.
Anasema hata mkizima taa tutakunywa. They didn't know that they were losing their eyes. They thought that these guys were trying to switch off the lights so that they don't drink. These guys are do you know how many people died at that particular time? And I can tell you, and that's why you are saying a generation is getting lost. I have seen several people that we used to be with them in school. They died because of this. Actually, they are taking everything. They are taking bangi. They are taking all these things. So it is a serious issue. And you know, let me say, Georgia has said something. Like now, for example, you know, I have seen like Turkana. And that's why now we are saying, in terms of leadership, we need to have leaders who can be able to activate what is in their counties. I looked at Turkana and I realized one side is actually agricultural.
One side of Turkana?
Yes.
They have a whole lake.
Yes. Agricultural.
Yes.
And they have actually shifted completely from pastoralist to actually agriculture. And they are doing very well.
Yes.
You know, it is actually someone who sat and said, look guys, we cannot keep on moving from one area to another area. There is an economic block that we can make good use of here, and it is able to produce for us. And I realized that they are actually able even to feed the community in such a big way. One of the things that we are talking about, some of the areas that we talk about, like Northeastern, Masabit and all those, do you know actually they are virgin lands?
Yes.
Do you know now what that means? If, for example, someone said, let's now make good use of these lands. The maize that you can plant with water. Because, you know, the other day, what was happening? It is the floods. There were so many there. That if they did the harvesting, you know, that water harvesting and all these things, it is water that can actually last them for a very long time. It is something that even you can go now to the national government and you tell them, this is not actually, we don't have the capacity to be able to do this. But the national government has the capacity to do some of these things. You know, you can change the region 100%. In the sense that you make everybody to be economically enabled. Such that someone is producing something. Because I keep on asking people, where you are finding young men are dying because they don't have anything to do. My old mother, she is now 90 years. I went to see her actually last Saturday. I went home. When I went home, do you know one of the things that amazed me? Is that she told me, because I wanted to give her some few monies here and there. She told me, son, why are you bothered about giving me some money? Yesterday, I sold bananas worth 5,000 Kenya shillings. One day. And she is actually doing it in a very small place.
Yes.
So you can imagine.
This is a 90-year-old woman.
Yeah, 90 years. And actually she is there alone with my sister-in-law.
Yes.
And these two people are actually active in terms of production. These guys, you go to them and you find with a small place they are able to produce. So that's why I'm saying, if a 90-year-old woman can be able to produce, what if the governor went and looked at what is it that can be economically viable in this area, in this county? You would find that the lives of people are going to change. So instead of being idle, there is something they are doing. I can tell you, like Moranga, one of the things, avocados.
Yes.
You go to fruits, they do very well. You go to French beans, they do very well. So it is actually a rich area where people can be able to do things. You go to the milk. I came with how many liters of milk? That Saturday, I was given 5 liters. In fact, I was told, don't be in a hurry. We are going to milk, and we are going to take you, to give you back something to take home. I have been enjoying that milk without water. Milk. And I was given by my 90-year-old mom. So what we are saying is, let everybody, the leadership, let them go down and see what is it that very little things they can do to change the economy. Because I can tell you, we are sitting on gold. And they said one thing, it is very bad when you are walking on gold and you die poor. Because you are actually walking, literally, we are walking on gold, but we are poor.
It's the mindset from both. Is it the mindset of the leadership that is affecting the people, or it's the general mindset of the people that has made them incapable of harvesting the gold that is around them? Because I'm imagining a 90-year-old woman right now. Majority of the 90-year-olds are waiting for the 2,000 shillings that they are sent for by the government. But you're talking about a 90-year-old with a small piece of land that is making money. Is even telling the son, don't give me money, I made money.
Sure. She is just wondering, why are you giving me this money? I have enough money.
Fred, that reminds me of a friend I used to have in campus, in Parklands, those days. He was called Ndumu. He comes from Kiambu, somewhere around Kiamba there. And we were hostel mates in the same room, but during the weekends, because his home was just near, we used to frequent that home. The father left them with maybe about an acre of land, just small like an acre of land. And for a long time they were struggling. Even at that particular time, around that time, you know, even his mother, because she was a single mother now, because the father had passed on, and so was struggling to even pay his school fees at that particular time for him as well, and his siblings. And then somewhere along the line, I think they decided that you know, the way Runda has been extending, the old Runda, and then they created something called Runda Mimosa. And then they went down there towards the bypass, created something called Runda Evergreen. So what was bush became posh. You understand? So they were lucky to be part of that transition. And they eventually they found themselves in Runda Evergreen, even though there was just a village there. You know, the way work extends on that side. And so all of a sudden, an acre of land there became about 200 million. So the mother was like, he sat his boys and said, what do we do? Because it's very obvious, we have a small piece of land here, but I need inputs and stuff. I'm struggling with your fee. What do we do? And him, I think he had a brother as well, even though they had sisters, but he sat with the sons and said, we need to do something. They agreed to offload half of that land, so that at least they're able to make something. So they sold that half an acre of land for 100 million. A half an acre of land for 100 million. And then the lady took the 100 million, gave the sons at least 5 million each to build a very serious homes on the same plot, about 10 million. Then gave them another 10-20 million to set up their businesses. And then herself, she decided to go into dairy because of the Githunguri dairy. The whole supply chain there is a bit structured. And she went and bought the dairy breed, Frisian cows, around for 200,000 shillings or something like that each. He went and brought 20 of them. 20 of them, and set up a zero grazing within that small same half an acre of land. And she was able to buy a bunch of pickups and, you know, the facilities that she needed. I think an investment of about 30 million. And I remember going back to that same home some years later, because we part ways after our campus, and then we met, say, 5 years later. So in our quest to catch up, and her mother knew me from our days in college because I used to go to her home. So my brother said, hey, let's go and say hi to mom. I said, why not? Because it's not very far from here. We went to see her. The transition that homestead had done from what we were when we were in college, and this is, say, 5-6 years later, and with almost 20-30 fresh hands, and they're doing 30-40 liters a day. The lady was now, when you take 40 by 30 is almost what, 1,200 liters.
Correct, yes.
A day, and they're selling it to Githunguri for 30 shillings or 40 shillings.
A liter.
The lady was now making 100,000 a day, and by all means she was now a millionaire. And in just half an acre of land, and they were running a business of, I mean, if you're making 300,000 a day, 150,000 somewhere thereabout a day, it means she's doing around 3-4 million a month. Correct. That's a business that annually is doing 40 million. And I was very impressed at what Edu, we used to call him Edu, it was Edwin Dumu. What Edu and his mother had done. They just changed their mind, and they were beneficiary of a system. So you can do so much with very little. Something that I always think can be replicated across the county, particularly in the regions that are very fertile, the Mount Kenya region, Rift Valley, and even Western region. And we can really be big, but it's just that the leadership hasn't lived up to it.
So it's the people who need to change the way they see things.
It is both, actually.
Yes.
You see, like what George has talked about, it is initiative that is coming from the person.
Yes.
What I have told you about my mom, there are several other people who are struggling, yet they are in the same region with my mom.
Probably with a bigger piece.
Yes, with a bigger piece, and even more strategic than my mother's. And even like that what George has told us. So the first thing is that in terms of the mindset, it needs to start from the person. That there is something that is driving you, and you believe in yourself. Now, why I say both, it is lacking in terms of the initiative of the person, and also it is lacking in terms of the leadership, because there are some people who will not see opportunities. They will sit down, and they are now the people who are working on gold, yet they are poor, but they have gold, which is just there, available for them, but they need someone to come and help them to see, so that their eyes can open. And that's where leadership comes to play. That our leaders, they need not to keep on politicking, social matters, and many other things. They need to look at how can we enable these people for the mind shift. Because if they can actually deal with the mind, you know, by the way, everything is in your mind. If they can be able to tackle the mind of the people, by actually even now investing in terms of educating the people, I can tell you the transformation would be very big. So it needs to be something that is being worked out from the personal level and also from the government level. We need to be intentional and deliberate in terms we are going to go to our people and tell them, guys, we cannot be borrowers. We cannot borrow when God has given us these resources. We cannot borrow when we have these pieces of land, because quite a number of people, they are doing so well. In fact, even now, the neighbor to my mom, you know what I found her do? And she gave me a banana to come with it. Actually, I'm enjoying the ripe bananas even in my home right now. I was also given by another woman who is 85 years. And she is also doing a lot of business. You know what I found her doing? She had actually called someone to build for them a cage for the rabbits. Look at the old
This is an 80-year-old.
Yes, 85.
85.
This is actually in terms of the mindset. And that woman, you find that they are actually enjoying their life. But the young people are actually not enjoying their life because they have lost hope. So one of the things that needs to come is for people to see hope. that I don't really need to have a white collar job. I don't need to keep on borrowing. There is something that I can do with what is there. If people who are actually almost at their sunset years, they are doing something, what about people who are strong?
Yeah.
And that's why one of the things, this Pobe, by the way, it has made many of the people not to think.
Yeah.
And that's why we really need to rally behind, bringing order in the families, like what George said. We bring order into the families, we show them the way, and that is the part of the leadership. We have MCAs,
yes.
I don't know what they do. We have the MPs, I don't know what they do. If one MP or one MCA can actually say, I want to change the region, they can change the region. With the small amounts of money they have, they don't even need to do so many
Fred,
things.
you can imagine, in Kakamega, our gold deposits are now standing at $3 billion.
$3 billion.
$3 billion. What is just, we've discovered, what has been in Kolomani for a long time. There's a British company there called Rosterman that has been mining for decades. And then these parts of Shinyalu as well. There's an area called Liranda. They discovered about $1 billion worth of gold as well. So what we have just, and if you go there, and one day I would love to invite you guys to, there are people even digging gold as we speak, you know, those ones they call artisans. You see a guy has gone, how many, deep into the dungeons of Kolomani. They're digging gold, and you have a bunch of businessmen, mostly Somalis and some Arab guys that just loiter around Kakamega town,
waiting
just to hear how much siltation has been done today. Fred has been under the rocks the whole day. Now he has a kilo of, you know, they call it alluvial gold, because it's still in raw form. Then you do the silting, is when you get that one, and then you do that heating process that they go through. So then they just sell the raw alluvial gold. So you carry it in michanga, in kilos and stuff. But you see, off that kilo, you're able to generate maybe a kilo of a gold bar, you know. And when you have a kilo of a gold bar, what you call an ounce, the one that they used to charge, is about 3,000-4,000 shillings, which is about 6 grams or so. So you can do it, divide by, take 6 grams, divide by a kilo, and then multiply by 3,000 shillings. Then you have a rough idea of what a gold bar goes for. And you know, our governors, me have a problem with this character. You know, Fred, me have understood, and what they taught me in business school. You know, Fred, me, when my first entry into college was to go and study law. I studied law, and then I was in a law firm. And then I became interested in commerce. Then I started my own small business. And my father, who was an old school mind, said, George, how do you do business and you never studied business? I said, I never studied, but it's in me. They said, no, you need to go to school. I said, when? He told me, I'll tell you when. So when he told me he's ready, I said, why not? He's my father. And then I went back to business school. And so I went to business school now to study management. So I did Bachelor of Commerce Management option, because that's then what I needed. You understand? So I look at how markets work from the onset. And so when I see a leadership that sits on a potential like that, it just goes back to what we learned in the Bible, that the person who buried his talent was the most punished. We need to punish these governors the most. Because, isn't it true, Pastor? They said they snatched that gift from him because he was expecting sympathy, but we thought he was sleeping on a huge opportunity that we have. The governor of Kakamega County can truly be the leader, can truly build a commercial hub just based off agribusiness and minerals. We don't need any other thing. Other people can have oil, they can have coffee, but what we can just do with grains alone and minerals is just unbelievable. But you know, they spend their time just singing anthem.
Okay, I hope the governor of Kakamega is listening.
Actually, not the governor of Kakamega. I think there are some few governors, and men governors, they need to wake up. Because they are the people who are sleeping most. Men, actually men. Yes. And you find that there is because women think, and they take time to look at things. And that's why we were saying last week. You find all the men are actually at Homa Bay, and they are praising Wanga, Honorable Wanga. And you ask, when you are praising Honorable Wanga, what is it that you are doing in your county? Zero. You know, you look at these guys and you wonder, are they serious about what to have what we call the economic stimulus.
Yeah.
Because this is what Honorable Wanga has done. She has looked at what can stimulate the economy of Homa Bay.
And it's working.
It is working.
You know, I wish we had more time, would have continued just talking about this, highlighting some of, it's amazing how we have a lot of stuff in our country. We have gold now, like in Kakamega is talking about gold worth $3 billion. Yet we were struggling to pay the Euro bond of around how much?
You could have guaranteed that payment.
You would have guaranteed the Euro bond with the gold deposit.
Yes,
Now when you start looking at some of the things that we have in the they discovered that this, is it cobalt? The one that is being used for mobile phones.
Yes,
we have it in Kenya.
Yes.
We have so many minerals, we have so many things. Instead of governors and MCAs fighting Governor Kawira, they should have come up with the policies on how this can be used to better the life of the people.
Correct.
And the same thing with Kakamega, the same thing with Murang'a, all the counties.
Yes.
This country has literally been endowed with silver and gold. We literally are a cannon with milk and honey.
Correct.
But the problem is we only see ourselves as grasshoppers. And that's the reason why we are not taking advantage of what we have. I hope that the leadership will see what needs to be done and do it, and even the citizenry, so that we can take advantage of this. As we bring the curtains down on the show, remember this: a 90-year-old woman somewhere in Murang'a County is